1/2 x plus 1 plus 6, and then we'll combine like terms to get x equals 1/2 x. Oops, and I see I left an x out up here, so we'll squeeze that in. Plus 7. 1 plus 6 is 7. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of the x on this side so I can get it on just one side. Minus 1/2 x. There we go. And that's going to leave me here with 1/2 x equals 7. And I have to be really careful there. I keep wanting to leave my x out. Now, the easiest way to solve this would be multiply by the reciprocal of 1/2. I don't need to use a calculator for that. And that's going to give me x equals 7 times 2 is 14. So x is 14. Now, if x is 14, then the larger number is 16. And now I want to do a check to see whether or not it meets the conditions of these problems. So it says the smaller of the two consecutive even integers is, so they're talking about 14 is 6 more than 1/2 the larger. Well, 1/2 our larger number, 16, would give us 8. And so 14 should be 6 more than 8. So if we went 8 plus 6, would we get 14? And the answer is yes, which means we know we have the correct answer on this one. On this problem, it's very similar to the last one you did, because the equation itself is harder to set up than defining the variables, which you should be feeling comfortable with now. We have 3 consecutive integers, and I'm just going to wait for just a minute to give you a chance to write down on your paper how you're going to define those 3 consecutive integers. And now I'm going to go ahead and show you what I would write. We'd have x, and we would have x plus 1, and we would have x plus 2. And this, of course, is equal to the first number, and the second number, and the third number. Okay, so that's out of the way. Now it said, find 3 consecutive integers whose sum is, so I know that I have to add these, and if I do that, I'm going to get 3x plus 3. Get that plus sign in there. Whose sum is 37 less than 5 times the third integer. So we've got 3x plus 3 being equal to is 37 less than 5 times the third integer. Now the third integer is x plus 2, so I'm going to go 5 times the quantity, x plus 2. And then I've got to take care of that is 37 less than by subtracting 37 here. Okay, we'll use the distributive property first. So we have 3x plus 3 equals 5x plus 10 minus 27. We'll do some combining of like terms, and that will give us 3x plus 3 equals 5x, minus 27. I subconsciously did the combining of like terms up here. This should have been a 37. It doesn't become 27 until I add the 10 and the 37, negative 37. Alright, so now let's get our variable on one side by subtracting 3x here and subtracting 3x here. That's going to give me 3 equals 2x minus 27. I'm going to add a 27 to both sides. And now I have 30 equals 2x. We'll divide by 2, and of course x is going to come out to be 15. Now, if the first number is 15, then the second number would be 15 plus 1, or 16, and the next one would be 15 plus 2, or 17. Now, we need to check to make sure that if we added those 3 numbers together, we would get a number whose sum, the sum that we get, is 37 less than 5 times the third integer. Well, 5 times 17 is 85. And you can check that on your calculator if you don't believe me. And the sum of 15 plus 16 plus 17 is 48. And 48 is 37 less than 85. So once again, we know we have the correct answer. Let's try another problem. Remember that you should be taking notes on these problems, and you should be thinking about them. So just writing things down is not very helpful if you don't understand what it is you're writing down. And on this one, what you really might want to try to do is hit pause and really force yourself to work ahead of me. So I'm going to start right now with defining the 3 even consecutive integers. Why don't you hit pause and see if you can do it before me. So x is the first, and x plus 2 is the second, and x plus 4 is the third. Okay, so hopefully you got the same thing I did, and now you're thinking about how to set up your equation. It says 3 even consecutive integers are such that the sum of the second and the third integers is. So let's go ahead and find out what the sum would be of the second and third integers. And again, push pause and you do it ahead of me. So I'm looking at the second and third integers, so that is x plus 2 and x plus 4. And if I find their sum, I'm getting 2x plus 6. And then it says that the sum of the second and third integers is 30 more than the first. And by the way, the word is a huge clue to put an equal sign in there. And it has been for every problem I've done so far. Is 30 more than the first integer. So here's the first integer, 30 more than the first integer. Okay, so let's try solving this. So we will subtract an x here and subtract an x here. That is going to give us x plus 6 equals 30, and we're going to subtract 6 on both sides, and that's going to give us x equals 24. And now the next number must be 26 because it's 2 more than that, and the next one must be 30. Now I just want to go back and check to make sure that this works. 3 even consecutive integers, they are all even, such that the sum of the second and the third, which is 26 plus 30, which is going to give me 56. Whoops, and I wrote 57, so we'll fix that. 56 is 30 more than the first integer. Well, the first integer is 24, and 24 plus 30 is not 56, so we have a problem. So in doing my check, I realize I have a mistake, and that's good because you can see that student, teacher, everybody makes mistakes. And but how do I go about approaching how to fix my mistake without having to start the whole problem over? So the first thing I'm noticing is it's probably has something to do with the 30 that's being added on. And I'm thinking that it said the third integer, the sum of the second integer, and the second and the third integer is 30 more than the first integer. So that 30 more should be over here on this side. And I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about. It should be added there. And so let's just go ahead and erase what we have here and fix it. We'll fix our equation. We'll recheck it and see how it comes out. Okay, so we still have the 2x and the plus 6, but this time is 30 more than the first integer. And so here we go. Again, we'll combine some like terms. We'll get 2x plus 36 equals x. And I'm going to subtract an x on both sides. And that's going to give me x plus 36 equals 0. And I'm going to subtract 36 here, and I'm going to subtract 36 here. And that is going to give me x equals negative 36. Well, 2 more than negative 36 would give me negative 34. And 4 more than that would give me negative 32. So my last two numbers, my second and third numbers then, are negative 32 and negative 34. And I need to look at the sum of those in my recheck here, negative 32, negative 34, and I see that they add up to negative 66. And that this sum of negative 66 should be 30 more than the first integer. Well, the first integer was negative 36, and if you added 30 to negative 36, you would get negative 66. So I know that I have now set that up correctly and have the correct answer. Okay, let's try another one here. And these length and width problems, dealing with perimeter, it's really helpful to draw yourself a little picture. So here's my not so great rectangle. And what I see is that the length is 3 inches more than its width. So I don't really know anything about the width, so we'll call it W. But I know about the length that it's 3 inches more than the width. So we'll say W plus 3, and up here W plus 3. Well, I know all four sides added together are going to be equal to 30, the perimeter of the rectangle. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 W's and 6, which means that 4W plus 6 is equal to 30. And now I'm solving this very simple equation by subtracting 6 on both sides, getting 24 there for W, divide by 4, and W comes out to be 6. So that means that the width of it is 6, and if you add 3 to that, you're going to get your length, and 6 plus 3 is 9. Now, again, helpful to do a check. If you were to double 9, you would get 18, and if you were to double 6, you would get 12. And we should be able to add those numbers up because it represents 2 quantities of the width and 2 quantities of the length, and of course that should equal our perimeter of 30. And 18 plus 12 is 30. So we know that the width and the length of our rectangle was 6 inches and 9 inches. Okay, and on to the next problem. The width of a rectangle is 1/2 its length. So once again, I'm going to begin by drawing a picture, and you might want to hit pause now and see if you can do the defining of variables and setting up the picture and equation on your own, and then push back on and see how you did. Here we go. The width is 1/2 the length. So the length is not known, but the width is 1/2 of that not known length. All right, and now all four sides added together are going to be equal to 54 this time. So we have 3 L's. If we added all those up, 3L equal 54. And when we divide by 3, we're going to end up with 18 for our length. And then we have to do 1/2 of that for our width, because the width is 1/2 the length, and 1/2 of 18 is equal to 9. And now just a good quick check in order again. We know that 18 doubled is 36, and we know that 9 doubled is 18, and we're checking to see, does this add up to 54? And it does, and so we know that we were right when we labeled the length as 18 centimeters and our width as 9 centimeters. On to the next problem. I hope you were able to get all of that done before pushing play, just to check to see if you're on the right track and able to do these on your own. Here we go. The length of a rectangular garden is 3 yards more than twice its width, so don't be fooled by the twice. Go ahead and try this one on your, and I will get started on the tape while you're working ahead with the pause button on. So here I go. There's my rectangle, and it says the length is 3 yards more than twice its width, which means I don't know anything about the width, and that the length is twice the width plus 3 yards. Whoops, not such a good 3 there. Twice the width plus 3 yards. And now it says the perimeter is 36, so we've got 2, 4, 6 widths plus 6 equals 36. So we'll subtract 6 and subtract 6. And as you're watching this, I'm hoping you already had the problem done and you're finding what you did looks exactly like what I'm doing. and W is equal to 5. Now I have to do 5 times 2, because 2W, plus 3, which would give me an L of 13. And once again, I want to do a quick check, and to do that I need to make sure it adds up to 36. So I know that 2 lengths of 13 are 26, and 2 lengths of 5 are 10,